Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's really a pleasure to meet with all of you today, although it's virtually, but this is the new reality of life with COVID-19. Iqra Trust, in a nutshell, is a humanitarian organization, non-profit. We have two main activities. First activity is to provide support to tertiary education. So we work with all universities. We offer bursaries and interest-free loans. We assisted thousands of students over the years throughout South Africa. And this is very important for the young learners we have today. So in case they finish their matric successfully and they need to apply, they are most welcome. In this regard, I just wanted to, there is a small mistake here in the invitation. The website is www.Iqra Trust. It's written here, Iqra only, iqra.co.za. It's Iqra Trust. If you can correct it, please, iqratrust.org. That's it. So again, it's iqratrust.org. And I encourage all participants to visit the website to familiarize themselves with what we do and also to see the application form. It's a very good website and it has lots of information. By the way, how many students we have today?
18 at the moment.
18, okay. Do you expect more?
Inshallah.
Okay, inshallah, I hope so. But 18 is good also. It's not bad if they learn something today. So again, the second main activity is we offer donations to many organizations, again, countrywide. Since we started, we supported more than 1,000 organizations in all provinces. We offer donations and the grants. So these are the two main. Plus, we have our own projects, like we have opposite our offices, our Iqra Trust Knowledge Center. It's a very beautiful halls and facilities inside. Unfortunately, we were about to launch it and just before the lockdown, but it's ready. And inshallah, we'll host many intellectual and the arts and the cultural events there. And also it can be used as a community center. So inshallah, next session should be conducted there. And we work with all universities. We have sustainability project where we provide schools with the solar system. And we offer also classes to enhance maths and science education at schools. We do it with the DUT, where I serve as a trustee there at the DUT, the Durban University of Technology. And we have many, many projects. If you visit our website, you will see what we do, especially in healthcare, also with Addington Hospital and many other hospices, all this. Also, I'm very happy to have this partnership with IPCI, where we give young learners the opportunity to meet with intellectuals and community leaders and scholars to learn from them. So I hope that they will take this opportunity. Today we have, after me, we have Mr. Anwar Balam, and also we have a great motivator, Mr. Junaid Bayat. You will learn a lot from him. I'm talking to young learners now. Please take notes while he's speaking. Young learners, you know, we have this session for the first time virtually because of the restrictions on gathering. But it will be still very effective if you just focus, take notes, as I said, ask questions. This is very important indeed. I just wanted to talk in a few minutes about what I would like you also to learn from my experience, education is a key to address most of the challenges we're having in South Africa. You know, we have, I'm talking as an economist, we have very high rate of unemployment, we have crime, we have a very bad healthcare system, poverty, crime. So if the way to deal with all these issues is just to offer opportunities to those unemployed people, because our unemployment rate is approaching now for 40%, which is really very, very serious. So the only way to address it is through good education and training and skills development. So that's why this is a very good opportunity for you, young learners, to focus on education and try to work hard to secure a good career. And if you, you know, if you really try to be a good citizen, you need to be highly qualified and educated. And also to support yourself in future and your family and lead a good life, you have to be educated, you have to be skillful. So this is the time to focus on, to work hard. And working hard, it means to study, to read, and take education seriously. We always here in South Africa, we talk about leadership and entrepreneurship. I always like to talk about good citizenship. This is very, very important to me, because leadership is like it's a talent. Not everyone can be a leader. We have to admit this, but everyone must be and can be a good citizen. Good citizenship means that you know your rights, you know your duties, and also respect the rights of others. Be considerate, be honest, and more importantly, to be kind with everything around you, whether it's nature, the animal kingdom, plants, everything. The furnitures in your classroom, you have to protect all this. We are a poor country, and I feel sad. I work with between two universities, Regent Business School and Durban DUT, and I feel bad when the students, you know, they get upset or anything, they start, you know, destroying the furnitures and the set fire on the libraries. It's really sad. Yeah, we shouldn't. We should refrain from this kind of behavior. This is our country. This is our assets. So we need to be kind with everything around us. Also, our natural resources like electricity, water. No need, you know, to leave the light on unnecessarily. We have a crisis here, and I'm sure you know that we shortly will, ESCOM will start again, will resume the load shedding and all this. So you have a very beautiful country, very resourceful country, but we don't realize this. So being kind with everything around you will make this country very successful indeed. People deal with all our limited natural resources recklessly, and they don't worry about it. Too much consumption, it's really terrible, yeah. But I think I am about to finish my time. But again, to conclude, Islam is not only about wearing a kurta or having a beard or making dua and salah. It's also about building countries, being successful, being helpful, being good, being kind. So you need to remember this. This is the way that to build a great nation. and this is the way to make South Africa better for all. Again, I wish you very successful sessions. And next to me, we have two great speakers, Mr. Anwar Balam and Mr. Junaid Bayat. I think both of them are there. I wish you good luck with them. I will stay with you for a few minutes. And now you have our website. I encourage also Muhammad Khan or any of the organizers to put my email address. I like to, any students, if they have any questions or if they like to visit our offices, Iqra Trust, it's a very central, close to Musgrave Road, it's in Hunt Road. You are most welcome to come to visit us and see our knowledge center and our library. So you can get my, I hope that they will put my email address and I will be very happy to meet with any of you. I wish you again a very successful day and a nice meeting with all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, Mr. Balam, you are on.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Firstly, I want to thank Dr. Baker for coming and giving us words of inspiration. Inshallah, it will help us and it will be of benefit to everybody. And his involvement alone is quite significant because he has interests of students at heart all the time. And he's been very much involved with students. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, really students, I think it's a very good thing that all of you are participating because it's very important. What is our brother Hafiz Junaid Bayat going to speak on is going to be very relevant to you in terms of your studies. But the area I'm going to cover is slightly different. It touches more on your Islamic aspect, more on you as a Muslim, and more on how you conduct yourself in life, because it's very important that your Muslim character is also developed together with your secular and other forms of education. And as you see on the first slide, we are saying that Alhamdulillah, we should be very grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are Muslims and He has guided us. He has given us the hidayat. We should appreciate it. At the same time, we should use it to advantage, and we should be exploiting that fact that we have been granted that Iman. Each of us has an obligation to embrace an Islamic character, and this for our own benefit. We have another side to it where your character impacts on others, but your character has a direct impact on you, on your life, and on your future. This is the hadith recited, rendered or related by Abu Darda radiallahu anhu. He says, on the day of resurrection, the most weighty item in the scales of deeds will be good manners. So good manners, character is very important for us, for our lives, and for our accountability in the hereafter as well. So it's important that we, all of us, develop this good character. As I say, it's for our own benefit. Our mother, Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha, has reported that a believer with good manners and good moral disposition gets the same reward as he who spends his nights in prayer and observes fast during the day all the time. Wow. That is quite a telling hadith. The believer with good manners and good moral disposition gets the same reward as he who spends his nights in prayer and observes fast during the day all the time. Think of it. If you know of somebody who spends all his nights in prayer, major part of his night, and who fasts every day of his life, will you admire such a person and say, wow, he's quite a pious person. But here, you have an opportunity that if you are a believer with good manners and good moral disposition, you could earn yourself a very similar reward. You know, one learned scholar has put it as follows. He said that any defects in your ibadah can be made up from good character. But any defects in your character cannot be made up by ibadah. For example, if you've been abusive to somebody, you have been swearing somebody and oppressing somebody, you cannot, no matter how much salah you perform, no matter how much zikr you make, no matter how much fasting you do, that cannot make up for the wrong that you've done in terms of a character. However, what he says is that if there are defects in your ibadah, you can, by your good character, you are able to make up for it. It's a very, very comforting thing. Here's a few more hadiths. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu reports that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, nothing is weightier on the scale of deeds than one's good manners. Now this particular hadith, we did it a few slides before, where we said it will be very weighty on it's a similar hadith to this one. In the next one, it says, the most beloved of Allah's servants to Allah are those with the best manners. Allah loves people with good manners. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never obscene or coarse. Rather, he used to tell us that the best amongst us were those with the best manners. So we see the importance of having a good character. And we see that even the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the dawah of the early years of Islam, character was the most effective form of dawah. The way the Muslims conducted themselves, the way they did things, at that time, remember that there was total jahiliyyah, total ignorance. The whole morals of the society, of that Arab society in which the Prophet ﷺ was preaching Islam, was really at a very low morale, and all sorts of vices prevailed. But the Muslims, as much as they were in small in numbers, their characters had an effect on the individuals around them. Now, this can also happen today. Today, you and I can also influence people if we display good characteristics. Right. Now, even in today's times, we are able to have, our character is able to influence others. I'll give you an example. In my workplace, there's a lady who embraced Islam a few years ago, and she was influenced by who? She used to live, she was living in a squatter camp. Some of you may identify with it, the Kennedy Road squatter camp. You may be able to recognize it. But she used to live there. And very close to her was an elderly lady. And that elderly lady had regular visits from her daughter. And this staff of ours was so impressed by the way this young daughter used to come, speak to the people, speak to her mother, the respect she displayed, the humility she displayed. She said to herself, I want to be like her. And that woman, that daughter, was a Muslim. And as a result of that, one day she came to work and she said, I want to be a Muslim. And that's what had influenced her. And there are many others, but it's really up to us. It's how we display our character, it's how we conduct ourselves that can influence others. This Hisham al-Talib, he wrote a book on Islamic character and dawah and so forth. And he says that a strong believer is better and dearer to Allah than a weak one, although they are both good. And this he quotes from Sahih Muslim. What is being said here is that as a Muslim, you need to be a strong believer. You need to have a strong iman. In other words, you have to make sure that you are well educated in your deen and you are practicing your deen. That will make you a good believer. What are some of the characteristics of a good Muslim? And this is important that we cultivate these. That one is able to have tolerance whenever you're dealing with people, whenever you are discussing with anybody. Tolerance is very important. And together with that is anger management. If you have to manage your anger, you have to manage your temperament. Sabr is also a very important characteristic. You also must exercise a lot of patience with people. And kind-hearted and helpful is also a very good characteristic, which has a very positive impact on people. I'll give an example. In the United States, where for some years now, especially after 9/11, there has been a lot of anti-Islamic propaganda, lots of it. And some Muslim or some non-Muslims having Muslim neighbors were surprised. They have been reported as saying, how can you say Muslims are bad, Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are whatever? Because they take our children to school. Sometimes they send food to us. If we need any assistance, they come to our help. How can you say that these Muslims are bad people? So this is an important form of da'wah. And of course, if you're people-oriented, you're able to disseminate the message to whoever it is. Even it's not essential that you give the message so that we revert to Islam. That hidayat is in Allah's hands. But at least you negate them. At least you remove any negative perception that they may have for Islam. And an important aspect is that you do things not for fame or worldly gain. You do it for the pleasure of Allah. Now we will look at some directives from the Quran. There are many directives from the Quran telling us on how Islamic character should be. And there are 9 specific characteristics that are displayed in Surah Hujarat, Surah 49 of the Quran. These 9 characteristics. I urge every one of you to study the Surah Hujarat, because you will, and study the tafsir of Surah Hujarat, so that you are able to absorb these 9 characteristics and able to implement them. The first one is فَتَبَيَّنُوا, that is, investigate when you receive information, lest you harm people out of ignorance. In other words, if you are receiving some information that is of a negative nature, investigate it. Don't go and start publicizing it and telling others that, look, so and so, look, this is what he's done, or what he did, or what she did, or what she's been up to. Investigate. And often you will find that that information was not true. The next characteristic is fi aslihu. And here it says, make settlement between your brothers as believers are brothers. We know there are always disputes between people. There are always sometimes disputes between family members, between Muslims. Very important is that we should all endeavor to try and make settlement between them. Wa'aqsitu is act justly. Whenever there is a dispute, try for settlement and act justly among both parties. As Allah loves those who act justly. Always be just and always be fair in whatever you do when you're trying to make a settlement. La yaskar is don't ridicule people. Perhaps they be better than you in the eyes of Allah. They could be better than you. So don't try and ridicule them and be, insult them or whatever. Like we say, wala talmizu. Do not insult one another. Always be very kind to people. Be always be gentle, and be always have a good disposition to everybody. And the next character is wala tanabazu. Do not call each other with offensive nicknames. That this is often a bad characteristic that is prevalent amongst, especially the students, the younger generation. They like to tease people. They like to call people by nicknames, often offensive nicknames, and that hurts the next person, because this also demeans your character by calling them demeaning nicknames. The next one is اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Avoid negative assumptions. In other words, avoid suspicions as much as possible. Do not be suspicious. Do not have a suspicious nature, because if you have a suspicious nature, you will make assumptions. Often the assumptions could be wrong, and this is very sinful. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not spy on each other behind their backs. That is also a very bad thing, to start spying on people and this is a commandment from Allah. The last one that I want to touch on in this Surah Hujarat is وَلَا يَخْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Do not backbite each other. This is a major sin equivalent to eating your dead brother's flesh. A very important directive here, and the consequences are very, very serious. It says, do not backbite each other. Now, this is often happens. Often, people get together, they'll talk about X, they'll talk about Y. Look at her, or look at him, look at what he's done, and the consequence could be very serious. Imagine on the day of Qiyamah. On that day, the greatest pain that you will endure is to find that your deeds, your good deeds, are in another person's register due to backbiting and slandering. We know that from other hadith that when you have backbited somebody, then you have to pay them back with your good deeds. And surely you don't want your good deeds to be given to somebody else, because you've worked hard to achieve these good deeds. And if you're going to pass them on to somebody else, what is the point? Recently there was a scholar that somebody was backbiting him and talking ill of him. So he decided that he will send a gift to this person with a note to the effect to say, this is a token of appreciation for all the gifts you've been bestowing upon me. And this person who received this gift was surprised. Says, I haven't given him any gifts. So he contacts him. He says, look, what is the gift? He says, my brother, you have been speaking ill of me, and whatever you've been doing, your good deeds are accruing to me. So I thought I would compensate you with this mere token of appreciation. Now, we as Muslims, each one of us is a flag bearer of Islam. And we are a representative of the Muslims at large. If we behave poorly, dishonestly, greedily, mercilessly, etc., then those who interact with us will conclude that Muslims have these evil qualities. On the other hand, if we embrace the character of Islam, those around us will definitely be attracted to Islam, and many of them will even embrace Islam. And every one of us, are ambassadors of Islam. By the way we conduct Islam, because others assess Islam by how Muslims conduct themselves. How we are, in other words, how we conduct ourselves, they say, oh, well, these people are Muslims. They can see, oh, they are practicing Islam. A few years back, there was an exhibition in London, Islamic exhibition, and one of the persons came into the exhibition. So one of the exhibitors, started asking this person, speaking to this person, and this person who came to visit the exhibition center said to him, I know all about Islam. I've been in the Middle East countries, I've been interacting with Muslims, and I've learned a lot about Islam. But the problem I have is that I can't see Islam being in practice. Can't see people practicing Islam. And this is where I am falling short. How can you expect me to embrace Islam? Because I don't see people practicing Islam. So is Islam a religion that can be practiced? This is a serious indictment on us as Muslims. Now, what I'm going to do next 2 slides is just to give you some of the injunctions in the Quran that will help us to improve our character. For example, the one says, do not squander your wealth. That it is, if squandering your wealth is not in Islamic. In other words, don't live a lavish lifestyle, even though you may have the wealth. Do not be, very lavish with it. Be modest with your spending. Then let's take another one. Restrain your anger. In other words, always control your anger. And I'm sure that a person like Hafiz Junaid Bayat, who's coming on later, he'll be able to give a full discourse on anger management, for example. Now, it's not my intention to go every one of these advices from the Quran, because that will take us quite a while. But these are just some that I've picked up, and you are urged to look at them. I urge every one of you to be able to study the Quran with the tafsir, and look at these. You've seen quite a few of these. There are several others in the next slide as well. There are various guidelines where you can develop a good character. Something that you need to, every one of us should strive towards these good characters, so that we can implement these in our lives. And if we are implementing these in our lives, it's only going to do us good. And of course, as ambassadors of Islam, we will also be making a form of a da'wah. In the next slide, Safar Publications have summarized a Quranic verse, which is in Surah Baqarah, verse 177, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. I'm not going to go through the entire verse. You can read the verse. It's a long verse. And I urge you to go through this verse of the Quran. It's a very, as they say, it's Islam in one ayah. It gives you a whole perspective of Islam. In one ayah, you're able to see many aspects of Islam, and you are able to implement this. So it is important that we look at this ayah. All of us should try and study this ayah. Look at it with meaning. Look at what the tafsir has to say of the various things. In other words, what the beliefs are. They list their 5 beliefs. Then what you should do with your wealth. There are 6 items how you should spend your wealth, what you should do with it, and what are the spiritual things you should be doing, like establishing salah, giving zakah, and exercising patience in various scenarios. And this is directly in the Quran. It's in that verse, how you should exercise patience in poverty, in hardships, during difficult times, during battles, and so forth. So it's a good guideline for every one of us to study this verse and to be able to equip ourselves and to enhance our own character. Now, I mentioned Islamophobia, I mentioned 9/11. I think amongst the students, probably none of you were born when 9/11 occurred. And 9/11 was the 11th of September 2001, when the Trade Center was bombed. Trade Center was a huge building structure in New York City. And I'm sure most of you must have heard of it, but that was the start of Islamophobia in a big way. That's when the hatred for Islam was started. And apparently, the Muslims had, some Arabs had flew planes into these buildings and caused massive destruction. Now, there are various opinions as to how this thing has happened. On the surface, it was supposedly Muslims had caused it. And the reason was that to create that hatred, to create that impression that Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are bad people, and please refrain from Islam. And as here I'm quoting a non-Muslim saying this, says, my opinion in Islam used to be that the religion, the culture, and the people were backward. They didn't integrate and they wanted to take over. In other words, they want to take over the whole world with their system and with their backward ways of doing things. I always looked at Muslims like the elephant in the room. I had a hatred for Muslims. This is generally the perspective, that's the general impression people have of Islam. Islam is a backward religion full of terrorists, and they create that impression. Now, we're going to look at some people, some individuals that have had a positive, some sportsmen that have a positive influence on Islam. Muslim sportsmen who displayed exemplary Islamic conduct in public that they changed many negative opinions about Islam. And I'm saying this to you because you and I should also have exemplary Islamic conduct in our lives so that we are able to give a good opinion of Islam. And some of these some of these individuals of current times are the boxer Muhammad Ali, Hashim Amla from home, whom you should be able to identify with. He's now a retired cricketer. He used to be a Springbok cricketer playing for the country. And some of you may recognize Mohamed Salah, Egyptian soccer player, plays for Liverpool. Sadio Mane, also a soccer player from Senegal, sorry. He also plays for Liverpool. Now, I don't know if it's possible for our host to have a poll, but I just want to ask the audience, do you follow English soccer? Because I know many of our youth do. Does anybody follow English soccer? I do know that people are supporters of English soccer. And I also know a lot of people support Liverpool in South Africa. And I sort of assume some of our youth will also be part of it. Now, this is what, here's an example of Muslim inspiration to non-Muslims to embrace Islam. Now, this is a non-Muslim who reverted to Islam because of Muhammad Salah. Says, this is what he said. Muhammad Salah really and honestly inspired me. I have gone from hating Islam to becoming a Muslim. And the Liverpool forward, this is Ben Bird saying that, the Liverpool forward is the principal reason for that. So this guy, he's a journalist, Ben Bird, he became Muslim because of Muhammad Salah. I mean, a soccer player, the way he conducted himself. So it doesn't mean that if you participate in activities which is predominantly controlled by non-Muslims, that you cannot have Islamic influence on them. Muhammad Salah had and still has a significant impact on non-Muslims. The year 2020, Liverpool, by the way, I'm not a supporter of English soccer or Liverpool or anybody else, but I'm just using this so that it inspires us. This year, Liverpool Football Club claimed its first Premier League title in 30 years, first time. And by a huge margin. I believe the second is Manchester City, which is way behind them in the league. And who were the heroes? Mohamed Salah, Egyptian Muslim, and Sadio Mane, a Senegalese Muslim. They spearheaded this historic event, and they dealt a severe blow to Islamophobia, mainly in the areas they operate in England, but also to an extent internationally, because English soccer is followed throughout the world. And it's very significant. It's something that should inspire us also, that we should also have a inspire others by our Islamic character, the way we conduct ourselves. In fact, in a hadith of the Prophet Prophet says, the best amongst you are those who benefit mankind. In other words, if we are able to do things for mankind, if we are able to do things that benefit others, then Allah loves you. And you should all ask each other, we should all ask each other, what are we doing? Are we of benefit to anybody? Are we of benefit to mankind? Have we benefited people in some way or the other? I mean, obviously the biggest benefits is if you build, say, a well and provide free water for people. That is, obviously not everybody can do that, but everybody could do things in a small way. I mean, look at, I quote with these people from America, in New York, where the Muslims took the neighbors' children to school. You are now being of benefit to people. Now, what I also need to highlight to you about this Liverpool, Muhammad Salah has been such an impact on his supporters. Now, these are non-Muslims have compiled this little song for the audience, for the supporters, and in it, this is the song. As you can see, it's Mo Salah, la la la, la la la, la 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 la. If he's good enough for you, he's good enough for me. If he scores another few, then I'll be Muslim too. If he's good enough for you, he's good enough for me. Then sitting in the mosque is where I want to be. Now look at that. What influence he has had on his supporters. They're even prepared to embrace Islam because of him. And it's not just because of the way of the goal he scored, not just because of, it's also his conduct. And I must just tell you that English soccer players, you probably all know, earn huge sums of money. Muhammad Salah himself earns 16 million pounds a year just from his team. And he earns another 9 million pounds in advertising and other things. But just take his 16 million pounds from shall we say, from Liverpool. That equals to 280 million rands a year. That is huge. Or 24 million rands a month. Can you imagine earning 24 million rands a month? But now, what is and this is what the soccer players earn. Okay, he may be earning more than the others. What they do, they live a very lavish lifestyle. They will have palaces, they will have fancy cars, and they will have parties and all sorts of things. They will really squander their money. They will spend it. But these two individuals, they don't live lavish lifestyles. They spend a lot of their money on the communities they come from. They spend money building mosques, they're building structures, and they live very humble lives. I'll give you an example. This Sadio Mane, after one match, a journalist followed him where he was going. He drove straight to a mosque. And in the mosque, now, as I said to you, these people live very lavish lifestyle. They have servants, plenty of servants in the palatial homes. They don't do anything for themselves. But here, Sadio had come to the masjid. What was he doing? He was washing the ablution area, the wuzu khana. And this journalist was shocked. Wow, look at this guy. He's so humble, so, he reduced himself to such a level that he is now washing the wuzu khana. Imagine. Now, what is important for us is this Quranic verse in Surah Baqarah, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do you enjoin right conduct on the people and forget to practice it yourself? Now, I'll give you an example. There's a Dr. Abu Bakr Chitti who does a lot of da'wah work in the Mpumalanga area. I'm sure you all know where the Mpumalanga province is. Nelspruit is the capital of that area. And once he was bumped into a youngster, about 13, 14 years old, in the early teens, and he says to him, oh, whatever his name was, that I haven't seen you for a while, I don't see you in the masjid. So this youngster replies, he says to him, oh, Sheikh, I'm a Muslim for a few years now. I'm an old Muslim now, implying that if you're an old Muslim, Salah is no longer compulsory for you. You don't have to perform Salah. Why? Because he looks at the old Muslims and he sees they don't perform Salah. But because he's a new Muslim, they've been emphasizing to him that he should be performing Salah. So he has to go to the mosque. But now he classifies himself as an old Muslim and he doesn't go to the Salah. Now here's another example. I'm just quoting something from the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 5, the Bible, and it's verse 27. It says, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. Now, this is also in the Bible. And the next verse says, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, just look at the Christian or the non-Muslim way of life. I mean, firstly, even things like marriage is not compulsory anymore, not essential. You live together. You can go out with your partner, whether it's male, female. You can do what you want and you can live, you can sleep together. Yet the teachings are very rigid, very strong. It says here that you shouldn't even if you look at a woman lustfully, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. So it tells you there's a complete, sort of on the one hand, you are a believer, you profess to be a strong believer. On the other hand, your practices are contrary to what you believe. Now, you young participants that are here present for this session, you will be exposed to the world and you will encounter hostility to Islam, especially at the tertiary level. Many of you may be cocooned, many of you may be living in an Islamic environment, many of you may be in an Islamic school, and you don't get exposed to these sort of hostilities. But as soon as you go to the tertiary level, you will be lured by the glitter of newfound independence. You will see the attractions of this worldly things and all the evils that are prevalent in the world. There will be temptation to drift away from Islam. That temptation will be very strong. And it is at this point that you should prepare yourself. We mentioned earlier that your Iman, your Islam should be strong. You should ensure that you have a very strong and rigid background so that you do not get lured by this. Because very easily, especially when you go to campus life, it's total freedom. You do almost what you feel like, and it's really up to you how you conduct yourself. And it is at this point that I want to ask you also, every one of you should be da'i as well. And if you're able to make da'wah yourself, you will strengthen your own iman. Everybody knows this famous verse, Ud'u ila sabili rabbikal hikmah. It is verse 125 from chapter 16 of the Quran. It says, invite people to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good counsel, and debate with them in the best of manners. Now, we should all be some form of da'wah workers. We should all be da'is, because as I said to you earlier, that our character, people should be able to recognize us. Oh, there goes a Muslim. Look at what he's doing. Look how helpful he is. Look at how he conducts himself. Look how he speaks to people, how he conducts himself. And I urge every one of you that you should have some sort of dawah inculcated within yourself. The IPCI itself holds dawah comparative religion courses, holds dawah courses, and I urge you to keep in contact with IPCI and to participate in these courses. These courses usually, come free of charge, so there's no cost, or there may be a minimal cost. But you will learn a lot, and you will learn to conduct yourself. You will learn to do da'wah amongst the people. And the da'wah is not only for non-Muslims, even for Muslims. And just some aspects on da'wah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advises Musa alayhi salam in the Quran, when he was addressing Pharaoh, speak to him in gentle words. Maybe he takes to the advice of yours. So even when the addressees responded harshly, their gentleness always prevailed. Now, when you are with yourself, when you are grouped, as I said to you, try and ensure you entrench Islam in yourselves and in your company, and you will always be subject to verbal attacks. You will be subject to defamation. People will insult you. People will, Islamophobia is quite rife. And what you should always do is try to be attack or try to defend whatever you are being attacked against. And sometimes people physically destroy the Quran, burn the Quran, they will disfigure mosques, and this will be in a greater life. What you should do is establish reasons and to counteract these things. You should have a shura. The IPCI is always available to you if you have issues, if you have attacks on Muslims. We have a book called Common Questions that are asked about Islam and Muslims. This book is available at the IPCI. We also have lectures. We have Hafiz Sabir Basha, who specializes in this common questions that asked about Islam and Muslims, how to respond to these things. It is important that we respond to these things and don't just accept them and accept the criticism. In fact, our chairman referred to Sheikh Ahmed, who was the founder of IPCI. The thing that spurred him on was these attacks, these insults that the non-Muslims were hurling against the Muslims. And he couldn't take it, but he didn't know how to respond to these things. And he, by accident, bumped into this books called Izharul Haq, which responds to the different aspects that they attack Islam and Muslims. And it is important that we are able to defend Islam. We are able to have responses. They will tell you, oh, Muhammad was a womanizer. He had so many wives. There are responses to these. Muhammad was a child molester. He married Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha at the age of 9 on A'udhu Billah. There are responses to these things. Let's equip ourselves. Let's be fully, conversant with all the issues so that when we are attacked, we are able to respond. We don't sit back idly and let things go by. Because if we sit idly, then whatever attacks they make against Islam, they will feel it's true. We need to neutralize them. We cannot change them. We cannot give them hidayat. Hidayat is always in Allah's hands. Allah says in the Quran, indeed, we have taken it upon ourselves to guide. Allah will give the guidance. And then there is no compulsion. We're not forcing anybody to become Muslims. La ikraha fid deen. There is no compulsion in deen. It's something that, it's a choice. People have to choose whether they want to become Muslims or not. They can choose. So we cannot give the hidayat. Hidayat is always from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we have to be ambassadors for Islam. We have to develop that character. We have to show them who Muslims are, how Muslims conduct themselves. And just as a bit of parting advice, this is my last slide, is I tell you as students that when you are with each other, always, be one together, always work together. And this is a hadith that was narrated in Bukhari Sharif. Do not hate each other. Do not envy each other. Do not turn away from each other. but rather be servants of Allah as brothers. It is not lawful for a Muslim to boycott his brother for more than 3 days. Just bear this in mind. Always be helpful with others and work with each other. Never have hatred for each other. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for that. Students, I hope you all well. And, just to quickly retouch in less than 30 seconds, Dr. Baker spoke about good citizenship and Mr. Anwar Bellam spoke about character. These two things go hand in hand with the third component, which is what you're working towards, that is your career. So just remember, it's very important. So very quickly, can I ask everybody to type in the word yes in the chat box if you can see my screen and you can hear me loud and clear. Please type in the word yes in the chat box. Excellent. We've got one. Miriam is there. Excellent. Adnan, Zarifa. Oh, excellent. Fantastic. Good stuff. So guys, let's get going with our session. Very quickly, I always like to begin by asking some very simple questions. The question I'd like to ask is, Zakla, yeah, all the yeses are coming in. Excellent, excellent. I didn't see the Escort Islamic Center. Are you guys, can you hear me? Will the admin at least type in yes for me? The Escort. Alia, well done. Okay. And Zakira Jada, oh, excellent. Very good. So everybody's on and you can hear me and see. So let's begin by asking some very simple questions like I always like to begin. How many of you would like better grades, better results? And I'm sure every one of you are going to shake your head and go, yeah, I want that. Number two, would you like more confidence that, hey, I know my work, I can smash it, I know my maths? I'm pretty sure you'd say yes to that too. How about this one? And I know we all like more time. Not time to study, but time to be able to do my own things, time to be free, time to chill out, time to hang out with my buddies, time to socialize, things like that. Okay. The next one is very important. And would you like to improve your memory, to have a better memory, to be able to remember more information? Because what happens is most of the time, when you're in grade 10, 11, and 12, if I ask you, especially now in that, like we're in the third term, if I ask you, hey, what did you do in the first term? And a lot of goes, oh boy, I can't even remember. So yes, we all want a better memory. And how about this second last one? Would you like to be able to do things in a faster, smarter, and easier way when it comes to your learning, right? Whatever normally takes you like 45 minutes to an hour to learn, would you like to be able to do it in 15 to 20 minutes? And I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me yes. And the last one, guys, this is big. Right now, especially with the e-learning and, those of you that are at home, you're going to get a lot of pressure, right? Because the people that get stressed out the most when it comes to your education, especially exam times, is not you. The people that get stressed out the most is mommy. And mommy, when she gets stressed out, the whole house goes away upside down, right? So what happens is you need to learn how to be stress-free, and we will teach you how to have everything under control so that mom doesn't get stressed out and she doesn't stress out the teachers and everybody else, because that way everybody is under heavy stress. So we want you to be chilled out. All right. So quick summary of what I'm going to cover today. For those of you that are listening to me and seeing me for the first time, I'll give you a quick intro background about myself. And then I'm going to talk about where do we find ourselves. It's already been covered somewhat by the previous two speakers. And then I'm going to talk about the 6 key pillars of a study system and how you can use it in everyday learning. Then we're going to talk about identifying and maximizing your learning style and your personality type. I'm going to quickly go in, I'm just going to touch very briefly on the 9 intelligences, which one you are much higher in and which ones you can build on. And the main component of the learning is going to be under the part where I'm going to cover active and passive learning. All right. How most people are learning is in a passive way, but how we should be learning is in an active way. And I'm going to show you 12 different areas, 12 different components of, studying that I have put in the differences that, that I've drawn the comparison of what people do when they are passive and what they do when they are active. Okay. Very quickly, those of you that don't know me, I'm not a teacher, never been a teacher my whole life. I'm just very passionate about education, and I love working with youngsters, and that's the reason we decided to work with you guys on a long-term basis for the next 2 to 3 years to make you guys good leaders, right? We want you to stand apart, and that's why we're going to give you as much as we can. All right. So I've studied human mind now for over, it's gone a long time, for about like 25 years. I'm the creator of the program called Accelerated Learning, as well as the authority coach for kids. My background, boys and girls and brothers and sisters, is actually very strange. I come from a technology background. I designed email systems and networks, so I'm very pro technology. I'm very pro you using your devices to be able to get better grades and better results. Those of you that came on the first session, I gave you a lot of practical tips of how to use your device to get that extra 10 to 15%. So yes, my background has been in IT. I was at the forefront of technology in South Africa. I'm also an avid author. I like to write a lot. I've written quite a few ebooks. Right now, guys, I've been very passionate about youngsters and teens as well as education, for the last 20 years. That's why I'm here to make a huge difference in your guys' lives, especially in what you do full time, and that is your education. A little bit about my accelerated learning program, apart from it's now being used internationally, not just nationally. I launched it in 2011. So we're less than 10 years old. We've been featured on the Sunday Tribune. I've been writing articles for the whole year of 2017 on study skills and how to learn in a smarter, faster, easier way. I've been featured on a lot of podcasts recently, a lot of radio interviews during the COVID period. I even had my own radio show on 2 or 3 of the different radio stations on getting this kind of knowledge. It's a new way that I bring, to the table in how people can learn and develop. And that's why it's taken everybody by storm. It's being used in the Gulf now, right? We've done a trial period, a run on the 1st of April for the Ministry of Education in Dubai. We are looking to pilot it as well in Canada as well as Australia. So basically what I'm saying is it's a system that is really getting results. As you can see, it's been used by several universities besides UKZN, which I started with at UKZN. And I was featured on national television because of the amazing results I achieved with matriculants 2 years in a row, right? That was a big highlight for the program 2 years after we launched it. Now, the program has been used by over 125,000 learners, over 10,000 teachers, over 10,000 parents, even corporate companies, as well as colleges like your Daimler, Intech, and ICISA. And the last thing about me is I'm also a high-performance coach to people that compete at the highest levels, like, for example, Olympians that compete at the Olympics. I've coached a few judges and ministers, people that are leaders and thought leaders. They actually turn to me when they want to be performing or they want to take their performance to a higher level. And that's basically me in a nutshell. So enough about me. Let's talk about you. All right. Where do you find yourself currently in the current, global situation, right? Right now, what happens is, if you look at South Africa, right, our education system is ranked 3rd last in the world, boys and girls, right? Now, this is very alarming because it tells us that apart from every other crisis that is going on, our education system is also in a major crisis. To put it into perspective, maths and science, it's, two crucial subjects that we are always doing. We are ranked last in the world for over 10 years, right? So that in itself tells you what a major crisis the education system is. So you need to take as much as you can from as many people as you can to make sure that you stand apart and you are now leaders in your education. You take full control for your education. Number 2, what we're having is technology has taken over. I've been advocating for the last 4 or 5 years because I come from a technology background. I've been advocating e-learning and learning via webinar for the last, I've been doing webinars since 2013. So for me, on a lot of my interviews, I've been telling people COVID has been a blessing in disguise because now learning will take place online at different times. You'll find people will be able to learn because a lot of youngsters function better at different times. So what happens is where they were fighting the technology, now they are forced to embrace the technology. And boys and girls, brothers and sisters, what do we know about technology? Us as youth, as youngsters, we love our technology, we love our gadgets. But guess what our parents and our schools do? They pull us away from what we love. They don't want us to use what we love. They want us to do what I'd like to say, boring schoolwork, right? So they try to pull us away from what we love to do what we hate. And I'm saying, coming from a technology background, what if we could collaborate both? I mean, look, we're delivering this entire session online. That tells us the power of technology. Okay, this also has brought about another dilemma where the human attention span has dropped, right? In the first session, we covered, learning in block time so that we are able to remember more and have higher concentration. So we know the attention levels now are very short. Number three, kids are just unable to learn. Nowadays, they need all the help that they can get, right? So you want to take as much as you can from this. The fourth thing is built in about character, right? Morality is on a rapid decline. This is globally. We have low values in that you'll see this in schools as well across the board, especially now in South Africa, where teachers are being bullied. Teachers are being, victimized. Teachers are also being assaulted. These are things we never heard of 30, 40 years ago. So what happens is this value of respect, honoring our elders, honoring our teachers has been forgotten. So we need to inculcate back the characteristics and ethics that Anwar was speaking about. And the last thing is the basic human needs have changed now in the 21st century. Like, for example, and why I'm talking about this is you'll see it has a direct impact on your education. One of the basic human needs is the need to feel special and feel important. One word for that is attention. In this generation, in this day and age, your teenagers, people of your circles, your networks, they want attention. They want love and attention all the time. But guess what? You'll find that most people have grown up in a home where they've experienced what I call tough love. If I were to ask all of you, how many times in your life has your father or your mother hugged you and loved you and told you, son, daughter, I love you, for no reason? Not because you brought a good report, not because it's Eid or somebody passed away. No. For no reason whatsoever. Now, very few people get this. So what happens is when that need is not met at home, you go outside and you look for it outside. This is how you'll find amongst youngsters, they can hug each other so easily. It's a human need that is not met at home. Because if you went and hugged your mother or father for no reason, the first thing they'll do is, what did you do now? What do you want? So human needs are not being met. And one of the biggest things right now is your generation has a lot of emotion, right? They've got a lot of love to give. And what is happening is it also impacts your academics. If you are emotionally hurt, you are unable to learn. If you've just experienced something, so learning is not only up here, it's also in the heart, right? So we've got to be in a good emotional space as well. All right, moving on. Let's talk about, the 6 pillars. We spoke about the first time, right? You need a study system. Now, that was overall. You can also use this 6 pillars in your everyday learning. What are the 6 pillars to study success? Number 1 is mindset. Everything dealing with your mind. That's why I call it study psychology. It's the foundation of all learning. What do I believe about what I'm learning? What do I believe about what I'm doing right now? Do I believe it's hard? Do I believe that I can't do it? Right? How does my brain like to process the information? How does my brain like to learn and take in information, which is what we're covering today, right? Preferred learning styles and intelligences. So that's the foundation. The second pillar is what I call study productivity. What are the things that will help me produce kind of grades and the kind of results I'm looking for right now? So 5 key components here is number 1, time control. Number 2 is about having a better memory techniques, right? Number 3, I must be able to capture the information, right? Look, technology, we're recording it. It's a very good thing to do, to record the notes, listen to the MP3s, listen to it on your headphones, things like that. Watch the videos, right? Number 4, being able to read more or research or expand more on what I'm learning. Not just restricting it and refining it to only the classroom and what the teacher taught. And the first thing that helps you produce better grades and results is actually your thinking skills, problem solving skills, which is what tests and exams are all about. The third pillar is about performance, all right? Got mental performance, physical performance, emotional performance. And one of the key things here is emotions. Like I said, if you just had a big fight with mommy is shouting you and you had a big fight and now you need to go sit down and learn. Do you think you're going to be performing at your best? No way. So anything that impacts your performance, even your attitude, your diet, your nutrition, your motivation, all of these things impact your performance. The fourth pillar is about what I call study process. What is the step-by-step process to write a speech? What is the step-by-step process when I sit down to learn? What is the step-by-step process to write an essay, right? We're going to cover these in the next session where we'll do exam questions and all of that in the next forum session. Okay, so anything that requires step-by-step falls under study process. Then we have perseverance and progress, right? If you are doing badly, what do I need to do to move up to the next level? If I have failed, if I am right on the top, I'm getting my 80s and 90s, how do I take it even higher, right? Also, one of the very big things when it comes to growth and perseverance, and a lot of you need to show and tell your parents, speak about this, is the biggest trap that a lot of parents fall into is comparing. When they compare you to your cousin or to that other person in your class or this other person who's also in grade 10 or grade 11, that's the biggest killer of self-esteem. So we should never ever compare you to anybody else. You compare you to yourself. Where was I last term? Where am I now? Where was I last year and where am I now? And the last ultimate is, why am I learning what I need to learn? How is it going to benefit me? What is the purpose, right? Short-term purpose for now in this session. Long-term purpose is, what will my education do for me, right? Oh, I get to get into the university of my choice. And what will that do for you? And what will that do for you in future? So it's not about now, it's about long-term motivation, purpose. All right. So this is a proven system that you need to use in your studying, in everyday studying as well as overall. If you have a problem in studying, it's always going to be in one of these 6 areas. All right. Now I'm going to go into learning styles and personality types. What exactly is a learning style? Very simple. It's how your brain likes to take in information and how it likes to learn. So if I were to ask all of you to quickly do an exercise for me, I hope you have pen and paper, all right? So very quickly, all of you write your first name down. Write your first name down on this piece of paper. And type in yes the moment you are done. Type in yes into the chat box as soon as you're done. You wrote your name down? Once you've written your first name down, excellent, excellent, very good. So now I want you to write your name again, but this time I want you to use your other hand. Use the other hand. What happens when you use the other hand? You write your name. It will be a little bit more untidy. It will take you a little longer. It's a little harder. All right. Now what happens here is, this is how people are learning. They're learning, a learning style. Typical example that I always give is one that you can relate to is, have you ever been in a class where a teacher just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, and after 15 minutes you zoned out? You ask your friend, hey, what time's lunch? I'm hungry. This guy's just going on. It's not that the information is boring. It means the way in which he's giving it is not how your brain wants the information. So this is what this session is all about. So guys, keep your pens and paper. If you don't have pen and paper, you need to get it. I'm going to be going through a series of 10 questions where you need to write down some numbers in the answers, right? It's just going to be simple numbers to determine what is your preferred learning style. You see, why is it important? It helps us to understand learning much better, because now you're working with the brain as opposed to working against the brain. It also makes it very fun and easy when you're working with the brain to learn. And the last one, you actually get to know the work much faster and much more easier when you work with the brain. So how do people take in information? How do they learn? In every human being, we know we've got 5 senses, right? But from the 5 senses, we only use 3 in learning. The other 2 have been negated because the percentage is very, very small. So let me begin with the top 3. The first learning style is what we call visual. Visual means these people like to learn with their eyes. They want to take in information through their eyes. They like to see things. 65% of the world are visual. Then you get 30% of people are what we call auditory personalities. They are auditory people. They like to listen. They like to ask questions, right? They like to talk. These are what we call auditory people. And then you get 5% of what I call the misunderstood people. These are what we call kinesthetic people. These are people who are feelers, right? So they like to learn by actually experiencing something, by doing something. And a lot of times they work on feelings, right? It's not about logic. It all boils down to actually how I feel. All right. So the last 2, which is the sense of taste and smell, forms 0.016%, and that's the reason in science we actually negate it. All right. So at any given point in time, one of your 5 senses is always the dominant sense. It's the most, most strongest sense of all. So we're going to conduct a little test to see which one of these 5 senses is your most dominant, is your most strongest. Okay. And from there, we're going to see also how it impacts your personality, how your, I'll show you some characteristics. You'll see it on the screen. There'll be some characteristics where you, do bad in terms of tests and exams, which kind of questions you'll do well in, which ones you won't do that well, all right? And this is basically general, right? So this is called multisensory learning. So just to quickly recap, visual people learn by seeing, auditory people learn more through listening, and kinesthetic people learn by moving, doing, touching, feeling, and experiencing. Okay, so everybody, pens, paper out. Those of you that don't have a pen and a paper, you can do this on your phone, or if you don't even have a phone, you can ask the person sitting next to you. For those of you that are like, for example, the Escort Islamic Center and the Masikane Girls Muslim School, right? If there's somebody next to you, ask them to write down the answers for you. The rest of you, I'm pretty sure you're at home, so I'm pretty sure you've got a piece of paper or you've got your phone. You just open a new tab on your notepad, open a new tab, right? New page, and you're going to actually answer these questions. So guys, before I go any further, I'm going to run through these questions very quickly. And the reason I'm going to run through it quickly is specifically because I don't want you to think about the answer. If you are thinking about the answer, you're taking your time, it means you're analyzing. You're not going to give me an accurate answer. But if you give me the very first answer that comes to mind, that is more of a subconscious answer. So it's most probably more correct as opposed to when you analyze and you think about things. So the first answer that comes to mind, I want you to write it down. Now on the screen, you'll have a question and you'll have 3 answers, 1, 2, and 3. You'll most probably tell me, Junaid, I do all 3. I know you do all 3. That's because you've got 5 senses. I want to know which one you do first. Which one you do first. So when you get an answer, like if I ask the question, question number 5, what is your favorite color? Is it number 1 red? Is it number 2 blue? Or is it number 3 pink? And you say, hey, my favorite color is blue. I want you to just write the number 2 only. So you will only write down the number, okay? Write down just the number only. Okay, so here we go. Question number 1. When you think about spelling a word, like probably the word apple, you picture the word in your mind's eye. Do you visualize what it looks like? Or number 2, do you actually say it out? A-P-P-L-E. Or number 3, do you write it down to see if it kind of feels right or looks right? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Write down your answer. Question number 2, when you are really concentrating, are you easily distracted by messiness and untidiness, right? Which is number 1, there's too many things on your desk. Or number 2, are you distracted by noise, people talking, music playing, neighbor's yard? Or number 3, are you distracted by people walking up and down, coming in your room, going in and out? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Write down the number only. Question number 3. When you recall memories, for example, maybe you went on a holiday. Do you remember that holiday as a picture in your mind? There's a specific picture. Or number 2, do you actually remember that holiday by things you heard about the place, the sounds you heard, things people told you about the place, things you spoke about? Or number three, do you see that entire holiday like a movie in your head? You know, first we went there, and then at the airport we went there, and then we did this, and then we did that. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Question number 4. When you are really pissed off and angry, do you, number 1, you keep quiet and boil up and burn inside, waiting to explode, you know, like the Coke bottle? Suddenly, when it shakes, then suddenly it explodes. Or number 2, when you are angry, are you somebody who starts shouting loudly and, you know, swearing Greek and French words are coming out of your mouth? Or number 3, are you somebody who will grind your teeth, clench your fist, bang the table, slam the door? If you got a cat or a dog, maybe kick the cat and dog at home. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? I know a lot of you must be saying, I do all 3. Which one do you do first? Yeah. Question number 5. When you forget somebody that you've met, are you somebody, number 1, who forget how people, you forget what their names are, but you remember how they look? Hey, I remember you. You came to our school. Or number 2, are you somebody who forgets how people look, but you remember their names because you'll speak about them a lot? Hey, that guy taught us some really cool stuff. Or number 3, are you somebody who only remembers you and what you did? You don't remember anything else. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Question number 6. If I asked you to describe your room door, would you, number 1, picture in your mind's eye what it looks like? Or number 2, would you describe it in very descriptive and colorful words? Or number 3, would you think about how it feels, how it opens, what sounds it makes? Hey, I punched it there, there's a hole. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Question number 7, when you are learning academic work, do you like to learn, you know, in pictures, videos, PowerPoint presentations, lots of color? Or number 2, do you like to learn by listening to people talk and speak like I'm doing right now, having a discussion, having an argument or an engagement, right? Or number 3, are you somebody who likes to learn in actually doing some kind of activity, making something, doing something? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Write it down. Question number 8. If you were free to do whatever it is you wanted right now, right? Getting permission from your parents or anybody else was not an issue, and money was not an issue. Would you, number 1, watch TV the whole day, maybe binge on a series? I don't know if you guys are watching Arturul, all right? And Osman. Or would you read magazines, play on the computer, online games, or just, you know, YouTube? Or number 2, would you rather just talk to others, get on the phone, socialize, listen to some nasheeds? Or number 3, are you somebody who prefers to just chill in your PJs, you know, just lazy in bed? Or otherwise, are you somebody who likes to, number 3, go outside, play a game of soccer, play a game of cricket? You know, for those girls that like to go shopping, shopping is a number 3 activity. If money and permission was not an issue, shopping is a number 3 activity. So which one is it? 1, 2, or 3? Question number 9, when you talk to people, are you somebody, number 1, who talks very little and gets bored listening to people talking too long? Or number 2, are you somebody who likes to listen and question and engage, you know, in the class? But sir, you just said this. What about that? You know, we engage. Or number 3, are you somebody who's very much like Junaid, who likes to use his hands and gesture and move around and can't sit still? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? The last question is question number 10. If you've done extremely well and now you deserve to be rewarded and praised, would you, number 1, prefer being given a nice printed certificate with your name in the fancy calligraphy? Or number 2, would you rather hear it announced, you know, on the radio or on the assembly or in the family group, hey, Junaid's done very well? Or number 3, are you somebody who prefers being given a nice shake of the hand, a pat on the back, a nice tight hug? Hey, well done, Junaid, you've done a great job. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? So if you've missed any questions, just type it out, type out the number on the chat box. And those of you that have finished all the questions, what I'd like for you to do is total up the number of 1s, 2s, and 3s. How many 1s, how many 2s, and how many 3s do you have? Total up the number of 1s, 2s, and 3s. So do you have your numbers? How many ones, how many twos, and how many threes do you have? So guys, those of you that have more ones than anything else, type in 1 in the chat box for me. Those of you that have lots of ones, I'm going to tell you what ones mean. If you got more ones, like you got 7 ones or 6 ones, there we go. We've got some people. Oh, there we go. We've got Alia, Zainab, Leia, Zarifa, Safia. Very good. Lots of ones. Ones mean you are predominantly a visual person. When you learn, you want to see pictures. You want to see PowerPoint presentations. In fact, by the way, you number ones, you love my animations in my PowerPoint presentations. You go, wow, look at that. That's cool, right? So the brain really enjoys that. How many of you have more number twos? Those of you that have more number twos, type in number 2. Type in 2 in the chat box for me. Those of you that have more twos, there we go, Adnan. We've got Miriam, Saleha. So let me tell you a little bit about number twos, right? Number twos like to argue and debate. They generally like to argue about anything and everything. By the way, if you are number 2, if we were learning about the human heart, number twos would like to get into, they'd like me to explain all the points. They'd like to get into a nice discussion or a debate. Number ones, if we were learning about the human heart, you learn best with a YouTube video, a PowerPoint presentation with diagrams, a simulation of how the heart works. Now, those of you that have more threes than anything else, your highest number, more threes, type in 3 in the chat box. Type in 3 in the chat box for me. Amara, Shaz, I take it that's for Shazia, right? Nabila. So what it means is threes are generally misunderstood people, all right? They are very soft-hearted people as well. If they were learning about the human heart, they would actually like to learn about the heart by actually holding a model of the heart, or even better, to actually hold a heart. At first they'll hold you, and then they go, dissect that thing. Hey, come check this out. You learn best by actually doing a dissection. Now I'm going to go into characteristics of each one. I'm giving you these slides. These slides are made available to you, right? I'm going to cover just about, just the basics, but you can read through all. I'm going to skip some of the things because we've gone over time, and I have another session as well at 1. So I'm not going to cover the advantages, right? And you can just read through these advantages of knowing your preferred learning style. I'm just going to go through the characteristics. For example, number ones. By the way, before I go into characteristics, how many of you had the same number? Or, for example, maybe you had 4 ones, 4 twos, right? If you had a same number, or maybe, maybe you got 5 twos and 5 threes. If you have that, type in the chat box what your numbers were. So if you've got, like, for example, 5 ones and 5 twos, put there 5 ones, 5 twos, or 4 twos, 4 threes. Type in the chat box those of you that had the same number of your highest number is same of 2 things. Do we have anybody? A couple of seconds. If those of you that are at Escort and you cannot speak, if you've got the same, I want you to make a note to get in touch with me on the group, and I'll chat. Oh, there we go. Alia Hafiji's got 4 ones and 4 twos. All right. So you see what this means is, Alia, it means your highest number, there's 2. It means at some point, it also means that you overanalyze things. You think things too much. You live in your head. All right. So what happens here is the reason you've become that is somewhere along the line in your life, you've had what we call a significant emotional experience, which has now led you to filter information. Anything that you go through in life, you overthink it. You want to think, you want to be, you want to know exactly each scenario. So you overthink things. But Alia, if I were to ask you, what's life all about? What would you say? You can send the answer just to me alone on the chat, and I can tell you which one will be your predominant sense, whether it's a number 1 or a 2. Just by answering the question of what's life all about. Oh, there we go. She's given me an answer, right? And I can tell you one thing, Alia's friends will also bear testament to this. I've got the answer. Alia, right now, you are predominantly a 1. You're predominantly a 1. She likes to see things must be nice, neat, tidy, right? She's more of a 1. So Alia, Jazakallah for that answer. You are more, right now you are leaning more towards a 1. So right now, for now, you can put down 1. All right. So let's look at some characteristics, right? For anybody else, you can message me privately at a later stage and we'll talk about that, right? Which one you are in if you have 2 of the same. Okay. So let's look at some characteristics, right? Number 1s are people that, you know, their brain likes information through their eyes. Never ever give a number 1 verbal instructions. Like, for example, never give them directions. Never tell a 1, go down the road at the robo, turn right. You'll come to a stop street at the robo, at the stop street, turn left, go straight. The moment they get to the first down the road, they'll pick up the phone. Hey, I'm here now. What must do next? That's because you gave them information by verbal instructions, went through their ears. Their brain wants it through the eyes, you see. So what we have is what we call, this is how we have a miscommunication and they don't understand the information. Another thing about number 1s. Number 1s are people that like to have a clear line of sight. For example, if you're in the classroom, they must be, and it's a must, they must be able to see the teacher, at least from the waist up, right? They must be able to see the teacher. Number 1s, if you go to a sporting event or any event for that matter, right? Like let's just say you went to the movies or something. You went to a sporting game. If there's somebody in front of you who's, you know, taller and their head is in the way, all through that event, they will only, can't this person move their head one side? That's all they got. So information gets distorted. Even in the classroom, if there's somebody taller than you sitting in front of you, the information actually gets distorted because you can't see. All right. So you got to have a clear line of sight. Now, generally, number 1s are people that love to make notes. They will make notes even if you gave them all the notes. Even if I gave you all, they will write on top of the notes. They'll make their own notes. They tend to have a very spatial, what do we call a visual memory. They can tell you, go to my room, open the 3rd drawer, on the corner left-hand side, I left some chocolates. They can picture in their mind's eye, right? Also, number 1s are people who have to have really, really quiet place to study, right? For them to concentrate, there must be no noise, right? However, you get the opposite of a number 1 is a number 3. Those of you that are number 3s are people that are constantly on the move. They can never sit still. Whereas number 1s are people that sit still a lot. They can sit and concentrate for long periods. Number 3s can't sit still for long periods. They are what I call ants in your pants. They get edgy. It's like shifting gears. You know, especially if there's a long dua, in 5 minutes, you see them moving around. They can't sit still, right? So you'll find number 3s, they like action. They like doing things. They tend to be very often people who don't care about dressing up. They can go, for example, they can go to the mall in their PJs and, you know, champals, shorts. They just don't care. As long as they're comfortable, to hell with everybody else. Whereas number 1s, on the opposite side, number 1s are those people that like to take their time to dress up, get my hair right. They generally are prim and proper, neat and tidy, okay? And number 3s are totally opposite. Number 3s are also totally opposite when it comes to quiet. They can't study in a very quiet place. They will make noise just so that there's some kind of rhythm. For example, they'll tap the desk. They'll click their pen. They'll tap their foot on the ground. You know, they'll interfere with their hair. If it's a girl, they'll interfere with their scarf a good couple of times, right? They interfere with their clothes. They always doing things. And that's one of the reasons why I always say you want them to be holding the book in the hand when they are learning. So what happens is when the book is down and they don't have the book in the hand, they interfere with everything else. Okay, so let's look at number 2s. Number 2s are people that love to argue. They love to debate. And these people don't need to see the teacher. As long as they heard, they got it all. These people also, number twos, are people who lose a lot of friends in life overall. And that is because they come across as very aggressive. They, their opinions, they always want to have the last say. The argument is finished and they go, but you know what, how I feel about it, right? They always want to have the last say in things. So they come across as very aggressive, very strong in their opinions. And that's how they lose a lot of friends. A little bit more of, what happened to my slide? A little bit more of the characteristics. Oh, there we go. Number ones are very, very specific about spelling, about numbers. If I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, they'll say, hey, you missed a number there. Whereas the others won't really care. But number ones are that, they like to see everything in order, logic, details. Number ones also have this vision of having, a better career, a better life, a better world. They're always daydreaming. They're always visualizing in their mind. They have these big dreams, okay? Number twos are people that love to socialize. They make a lot of friends, but like I said, they also lose a lot of friends. Number twos are people that like to talk to themselves. They'll be in the bathroom talking to themselves. Okay, I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to learn my physics work, and then I'm going to finish that assignment. So you go there and I say, hey, what happened? What you said? Oh, hey, I'm not talking to you. What's wrong with you? They like that. They tend to be very slow readers, number twos, because they vocalize everything. All right. They end up being good speakers in life. A lot of times you'll find they go into careers where they are, public speakers, lawyers, things like that. They love anything doing with socializing, interacting with people and talking. Number threes are people that tend to be very weak at spelling. Today they can spell the word in one way. A week later they'll spell it in another way. That's because it kind of feels right at that moment. They like to touch and nudge people. In the classroom, they'll touch somebody. Hey, see there was a... And now if you're a number one and that person touches, you go, hey, what's going? Man, he's bullying me. He's hitting me. Meanwhile, this is just, a characteristic of their behaviors. Now, there is no right or wrong here, guys. There is no right or wrong. It's just a personality type, okay? Number threes are people that can listen to music with a headset on. They can be sitting in front of the TV and they can learn at the same time. As weird as this sounds, this is how this personality type actually functions, right? There was a girl in 2018. She came out in the top 20 in the country. When her mother was interviewed, the mother said, I thought this child was going to fail. She'd be learning every day with her headsets on, listening to music. She'd be jumping on the trampoline outside with a book in her hand. And the mother would go, how can you be learning? You see, that's why I call these people the misunderstood lot. Because what happens is these people have very high IQ. But what happens is the schooling system doesn't cater for them. They ask a lot of questions. They'll question everything. But ma'am, why is it like this? Why can't we do it like that? After one or two questions, eventually the teacher gets tired of them. You're disrupting my class. We're calling your parents. Or when they can't sit still and they touch others, we need to get you on Ritalin or Concerta. You're not concentrating. You are distracting others, right? So that's the reason I say they are very often misunderstood. All right. And these people need a lot of breaks. Their best position when they are learning is they learn whilst lying down. They cannot learn while sitting up straight, on a chair behind the desk. They actually like to learn by walking around, playing, moving. So these are some of the characteristics, right? Let's talk about language, right? Now, visual people, they speak using certain words, right? Certain phrases and words. And you'll see, I'll give you a whole thing, what I'm going to tell, how I will tell it to a visual person, how I will say the same thing to an auditory person, and how I will say the exact same thing to a kinesthetic person, but I'm saying the same thing, right? So remember, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, your language is not something that you think about what word to speak, it just comes out. So language is what we call subconscious. Now also based on language, we can tell you what kind of a personality they are. So visual people use words like, as you can see there on the screen, show me another example. Let's see how this is done. I need to have a better look. Number twos, they'll say, hey, listen, we need to talk about this. Can you discuss it one more time? Or can you tell me one more time what it was? You know, they'll use auditory words when they speak. Kinesthetic people go, hey, hold on. This is too hard. I didn't catch you the first time. I need to get a grip with this. It just doesn't feel right. They use those kind of words, right? Now, here's some phrases that they also use. You can read through this. You get the PDF. I'm going to the third one where I'm going to show you how I can tell somebody the exact same thing what I spoke about just now. So a visual person, if all you number ones, if I could show you a smarter way in which you could benefit, you would at least want to look at it, wouldn't you? Right now, you're probably shaking your head. Yeah, I want to look at it. So if this looks good to you, we will go ahead and focus on getting the assignment in. Now, saying the exact same thing to an auditory person, I'd go like this. So all you number twos, if I could tell you of a faster way in which you could benefit, you would at least want to hear about it, wouldn't you? You go, yeah. If this sounds good to you, we will go ahead and discuss how to set the assignment. Okay? Saying the exact same thing to a kinesthetic personality would be like this, all the number threes. If I could help you get a hold of an easier way in which you could benefit, you would at least want to get a feel for it, wouldn't you? And by now, their eyes are open. They go, yeah, I want to. So if this feels good to you, we will go ahead and handle the assignment. You see, saying the exact same thing in different words, and it actually, they get it when you speak their language. So what does this all boil down to, guys? Before I go into this, it doesn't mean that because I'm visual, I need to stay visual. It doesn't mean that, hey, I'm more number two, I need to stay there. If I'm a number three, I must, no. What I need you to do, if you want to stand apart and stand out from others, other students, especially in school, you got to learn to adapt to do all three. You got to learn to use all three. So I'm going to send you, there's a booklet, a manual, a student manual that comes with this. You need to, what I need you to do is, where you go to those characteristics, there is, oh man, I'm missing a slide. Okay, study tips as well for the different learning styles, right? What I want you to do is, in the student manual, I want you to circle or highlight the ones you're currently doing on all three. And if you are doing three, things on all three, that's because we've got five senses. And like I said, one of the five is always predominant. But what I want you to do is, I want you to circle two new tips, two new study tips that you're going to use under visual, under auditory, and under kinesthetic. I'll give you one or two. Like, for example, everybody must watch videos of the lessons that they learn, right? Or they're struggling in. Number two, everybody must record the lessons or the sections that they're struggling in so that they can listen to it, on their headphones over and over again, like we spoke about in the first session. Number three, everybody needs to learn how to use a highlighter, okay? It's something that a lot of you do, but nobody knows how to use it the proper way. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? This is the golden rule of highlighters. Never, ever hold the highlighter in your hand. And you're probably going, huh? What? Let me explain why. When you're holding the highlighter in your hand, the objective of the brain has shifted from learning to looking for something to highlight. You'll highlight the page number. You'll highlight the spine. You'll highlight as many things as you can just to make it look colorful, right? So never ever hold the highlight, because now the objective of the brain is looking for something to color instead of learning. So the highlighter must always be on the desk or the table where you're studying. When you are going to highlight something, you'll pick it up, you will highlight the word, and you'll put it back down. How would you know if you're highlighting correctly? When you read the highlighted words, you'll actually understand it. It'll make sense. All right. So coming back, which test questions do each of the personality types score well in? Visual people like to do, they do well in anything that regards the eyes. For example, diagrams, graphs, labeling, reading, maps, essays. They do very well. They don't do good, or they find it difficult when the teacher is speaking and you have to answer. Now, if the teacher is speaking or reading a passage and you got, they actually don't do too good there because their brain wants the information in a different way. The second one, auditory people, these people tend to do very well in reading comprehension, where the teacher is reading and they have to listen. All right. They don't do well in a comprehension. They actually find comprehensions, they misinterpret. Why? They're reading the passage, but the brain wants it. They're reading it through the eyes, the brain wants it through the ears. So how do you, as an auditory personality, overcome this? Is you got to read the questions out loud enough for yourself to be able to hear it. You need to read the questions and the passage loud enough so that you can hear it. Auditory learners learn really well when they are able to argue and debate or discuss issues. Number 3 is those people that are very often misunderstood. These people get tired very quickly. So what they do is they like easy way out. They like what we call in science terms, the path of least resistance. So they like things like fill in the blanks, multiple choice, labeling, true and false, less work, less writing. The hardest test or questions are essays, because they'll write. After one paragraph, you'll see their hands, they'll massage their hands, hand painting, okay? They get tired very quickly. So they don't like to write a lot. Okay, so for some odd reason, I'm missing some slides, but nevertheless, there are study tips on the student manual. Study tips for all 3. Like I said, I want you to highlight what you're currently doing from all 3. And then I want you to circle 2 new ones from visual, 2 new ones from auditory, and 2 new ones from kinesthetic. Okay, so what happens is we need you to become what we call, a holistic learner. And if you're a number 1, you go, where's the notes? Where's the PowerPoint? I can't see anything. So suddenly you find, oh, I can't learn. And so that's the reason you need to be able to adapt. And the other very important thing, what I'd like for you all to do as practice is to become consciously aware of the kind of words, the kind of language people are using, right? Around you, whether it's family, friends, cousins, all of that. What kind of words they are using. It will tell you a lot about which sense of theirs is most dominant. And something that's not over here that I'm going to talk about is the love language. Love language, like for example, number 1s will tell, Daddy, show me you love me. Buy me this new car. Buy me this new bag. They like things that look nice. They'll tell, show me you love me. They want to see the love. And number 2 will say, I don't hear you telling me you love me, because they want to hear the I love yous and the sweet, the sweet words and all of that. They want to hear the I love yous. And then number 3, a kinesthetic personality, they actually like to be loved with hugs, touches. They hug and touch a lot, right? So for example, if you're a number 1 and your dad is a number 3, he's going to come and hold you and touch you a lot, and you go, but Dad, my hair, you're going to upset my hair, or, so you get what we call a miscommunication in love languages. So I just wanted you to know that as a side note. So guys, I put this slide up here for you to become consciously aware. According to the United Nations, in 2020, these are the skills you need to succeed. And I want you to see problem solving, thinking skills, creative thinking, critical thinking, good social skills, okay, good teamwork. And number 6 says emotional intelligence, right? Your EQ. So what happens is, if you look at 2015, some of those, especially EQ, was not there. Big companies don't hire people with high marks anymore, because what happens is those who got the highest marks, they tend to be loners. They don't know how to get along in a team. They don't work well in the corporate culture, you see. So what happens is they have done away with taking those with the highest marks. They're taking people 15% on marks, 85% on EQ, which is your attitude and how you fit in with the company, the company culture, how you get along with others. People skills is very important, and that's what emotional intelligence is all about. Okay, we'll tackle this topic of emotional intelligence sometime in the new year, around about the 4th or the 5th session. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about the different intelligences. Okay, there's this psychologist called Howard Gardner, who came up with the theory in, I think it was 1980, in the mid 1980s, about the different types of intelligences. Now I'm going to run through all 9. You'll see it on the screen, and I want you to note which ones are like high for you. You are really good at those, because what this means is you need to work on the other intelligences. All right. So what are the different intelligences? Number 1 is what we call naturalistic intelligence. These people are nature smart. They like the outdoors. They love nature. They love animals. They generally like gardening and planting and things like that. They love the environment. Number 2 is what we call the musical intelligence. These people are sound smart. They can make up a tune. They can make up rhythms just by tapping, or they love sounds. They can make up things with sounds. Then you have also, these people are always drawn to a tune. They can make up tunes also when they're learning. They'll hum a tune, things like that. Number 3 is what we call the logical mathematical intelligence. Right? These people are what we call math smart. They are very good at problem solving. They have very good logical skills. They have very good reasoning skills. Okay, their creative thinking skills are very high as well. Number 4 is what we call the existential intelligence, and these are what we call people that are very spiritual in nature. Right? Their moral intelligence is very high. Right? They're always looking about what's purpose. Why are we doing this? What's the point behind things? They deep thinkers. They generally make those, philosophers in life. They come up with these quotes and things like that. Number 5 is what we call the interpersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence is, in simple words, you're people smart. Okay, people smart means you can read a situation very quickly. If you get in there and you see, hey, people are kind of very quiet, the situation is very tense, they are able to read a situation. They get along with people. They are able to socialize easily. That means you are generally people smart. And then you've got number 6, which is the linguistic intelligence, and these are people that are verbal. They language smart, word smart. What happens with these people is they love to engage. They love to communicate. They love to read as well. Anything dealing with words, they're very good at. Then you get number 7, which is what I call the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. These people, similar to the number 3s, they have very good hand-eye coordination. They use their hands a lot. And by the way, if you fell into a number 3, remember doctors also fall into a number 3 category with personality type and learning style. So you'll find that these kinesthetic bodily intelligence people, they use their bodies a lot to make things, to create things, right? Number 9, we have the intrapersonal intelligence. The intrapersonal intelligence, these people are self-smart. They think a lot about themselves, about what am I doing, what's my life all about, what's going on with my thoughts, with my feelings, with my emotions. They're very sensitive about themselves. They make very good psychologists. They make very good writers as well. And the last one is what we call the spatial intelligence. These are the people that are able to picture in their mind's eye. They're able to visualize what is being thought. They make very good visionaries. They tend to be very good leaders as well, where they can create a long-term vision. So that's the spatial. So what I want you to do here for this part here, this slide here, is just to make a note of the ones that you are currently strong. You can be strong in all 9, right? It's all about building all 9 intelligences. It's about building and improving on all. This intelligences is a whole topic on its own, a whole session on its own. So I just want to very briefly want you to make a note of which ones you are strong in, and then we can work on the others as well. So you can build on those intelligences as well. All right. So guys, we're going to go into the second session. So guys, so far, has it been beneficial? Are you learning about yourself? And now how you can also become aware of other people. Has it been beneficial? Just type in if it's benefited you so far. Enjoying it? Excellent. Very good. Very good. Oh, fantastic. Good stuff. All right, let's get into this part. And this is the active and passive learning, how to process information. Jazakallah Amara, it says it has been. And I'm going to talk about something that is, you probably never knew this, but this is how I've analyzed things on a much deeper level. What are the different levels and stages of learning? And I'll show you where school plays and where you need to be playing. Okay, there we go. So guys, I want you to have a look. What is active learning and passive learning? Active learning means you are doing something with what you are learning. A passive learner is somebody who's actually just sitting there and letting things happen, or they're just consuming. So if you look here, 10% after this is after 2 weeks. People only remember what they've learned, 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they saw. So we know now that means you are, that's how much you've forgotten. So if you are a passive learner, if you only read, you forgot 90% of what you read. If you only relying on what you heard in the class, you forgot 80%, or you won't remember 80%. And like so, if you read through. So what we need to do is we need to become active learners, where we're doing something with what we learn, right? And let's talk about how to become active learners. There's 12 areas that I've looked at, which you need to not be a passive person, but you need to be an active person, right? An active learner. So when it comes to focus, right? Focus, attention, and concentration. What happens with passive learners is you'll see they'll be playing, they're always anxious, they're worried about, oh man, I don't know that section, right? They'll doodle, they'll talk to their friends, they're thinking about food, they're thinking about, I didn't download the latest episode of Arthurul or Osman, or, you know, they very inattentive, right? They're very distracted, I'll use that word. They have what I call monkey brain. The brain is jumping around everywhere, thinking about a lot of things. Now, what you need to become is an active learner. An active learner, what they do is they are very focused. They're very consciously aware of what is being discussed. So they engage also by asking smart questions. They will ask, you know, they'll get into a debate. They will involve themselves in contribution in the classroom about the work. They also, when it comes to focusing, they will visualize exactly what the teacher is saying, and they'll create mental pictures of what they're reading and learning. They are able to, when it comes to paying attention, they are able to now also explain in their own words what was just taught in the classroom. Okay. Number two, when it comes to reading textbooks, you'll find the passive learners are people that like to highlight. They read and read and reread maybe 2-3 times, and they think, okay, they finished, learn. I always tell them, no, you have not learned. All you've done is read, right? They generally will tell you that, you know, I've made some notes. Yeah, I got some notes. So what happens is they feel that just by reading and making 1 or 2 points as notes that they have learned. That's not actually learning. Now, active learners will start by asking questions. They will ask questions like, what do I need to know from this? What are the important points? Then they will actually read to understand. This is that's what the second point means. They read for meaning. They're reading to understand what it means to them. They link it to what they already know about the concept or the content that they're learning. They link what they're reading, new stuff, to the old stuff that they already have inside them, so that they can actually understand it better. What they do is when they see headings and, you know, they see these subheadings and headings, they change the headings into questions. What an active learner will do in a textbook, or even with the notes and worksheets that the teacher has given, they will highlight keywords. They'll extract the keywords, the key ideas, and the key concepts. So you might be asking the question, what are keywords? Keywords, please write this down. Keywords equals nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. So keywords equals nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. Keywords are also equals to 6 W's. 6 W's. Who, what, why, where, when, which. Okay, 6 W's. And I'm going to elaborate on this as we go along, all right? So what you're going to do is, as an active learner from now, you're going to extract key information. That's how we learn in an active way, to actually now process this information. We call this deep processing of information, right? Higher order thinking. Okay, now that's a little bit about reading, right? So, oh, I missed this last one. You'll visualize, meaning you'll picture it in your mind's eye. You'll then explain it in your own words, and then you'll summarize keywords. Now, when it comes to taking and making notes, passive learners will rely on other people. They, you'd see these people, especially when it comes to registration time. Give me a book quickly. I need to. So what happens? They want to write, but it's not their own stuff. And you'll find that when the teacher is teaching a lesson, these people are they make it seem like they're busy by just writing everything that the teacher says, right? So now what happens is you're not writing or taking notes strategically. You're just writing everything that's given to you. So what we need to do is we need to become an active learner. You need to make your own notes. You want to use mind maps, right? Or concept maps. You want to take pictures on your phone. You want to record, definitions and important key concepts, key ideas. You want to record the definitions of those things so that you can listen to it. It means now you are active, you are engaging, right? You want to make your own notes. And every student must learn the skill of summarizing. You see, the skill of summarizing, when you get into the corporate world, apart from in university, you're going to get textbooks that are 800-900 pages. You got to learn the art of summarizing. So summarizing is a whole lesson on its own. But what you got to learn to be able to do, my general rule of thumb is, for every 20 pages of notes on a textbook or a notebook, you must summarize it into a maximum of 2 pages. So a maximum of 2 pages. That's it. All right. So when you're making notes, you want to use mind maps, concept maps. You want to visualize. This is how an active learner engages in their learning. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We spoke about recording and things like that. Now, when it comes to time, taking control of time, passive learners have no schedule. They do things, last minute. They put off things till they're in the mood to do it. So they don't have any schedule. And when they learn by time. What do I mean by learn by time? They'll say, no, for the next 2 hours or for the next 1 hour, I'm learning on DNA, RNA. Or for the next 1 hour, I'm doing all my maths. They learn by time. Active learners actually have a proactive approach, right? Meaning they have a schedule. The entire week is mapped out on a schedule. Now, I'm going to give you a blank weekly schedule, right? So a weekly schedule is not only for schoolwork. I must highlight, it's not for schoolwork only. It's for everything that's important to you that you're going to do. Time that you're going to chill out with friends. Maybe you're going to go out with and have a braai. All of that must be scheduled. It means you are in control of your time. So if I ask you on Thursday, what are you doing at 2 to 3? You go, no. Thursday, 2 to 3. That's my chill time, bro. I can't join you on that. Hanging out or whatever. You know exactly what you're doing. You got to be in control of your time. So I will provide you with a weekly schedule. I have that. And your schedule must have everything. You'll have your social, you'll have your exercise, your recreation, as well as your academics. Now, active learners, they don't do everything all at once. They do a little bit every day. They do 2 to 3 minutes revision, even if it's just looking at their phones of the pictures of the notes they made. That's how they control. They don't learn by time, they learn by outcomes. Right, okay, I need to know this concept. Now, remember, if you tell yourself, I'm going to learn for the next 2 hours, Your brain actually registers this as a command, and it actually assumes that you need 2 hours to learn that. Whereas it could be a section that you could have learned it in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So you always learn by an outcome, by objective, as opposed to learning by time. Okay? Never ever study for tests and exams. Always study for knowledge. Knowledge is lifelong. Tests and exams have a time frame to it. Okay. So when it comes to learning, passive learners generally have one way in which they learn most subjects in. Okay. Whereas an active learner will have different approaches in different subjects. And the best approaches is to have the 5 things which is called extraction, visualization, verbalization, summarization, and assessment. That's a 5-pronged approach to taking your learning to a higher level. Then you want to use as many senses as possible. What will I see? What can I hear when I'm learning? What will I feel when I know this? Right? You want to use as many senses. These are what we call active learning approaches. Now, also, you want to learn memory techniques, which we'll also cover at a later stage. We're going to learn how to move information from your short-term memory into the long-term memory. And the reason for this, boys and girls, is that a lot of people think it takes a long time to forget information, whereas we actually forget information within the first 30 minutes of learning. We tend to forget if there's no revision or review system in place. We forget up to 50%, up to half of what we've learned. In an hour, you forget generally up to 60%. In a day, after 2 days, you tend to forget about 76%. So we need to have ways in which we can take information from short-term memory and move it into the long-term memory. How do people know when they know their work, when they're finished? Passive learners, I've got a feeling I know this. I've got a feeling I know it. They wait for a feeling. Whereas an active learner is able to manipulate, change what they've learned, change the questions, change the wording around. They're able to create and recreate the mind map without looking. They are able to teach it to others. They are able to give examples. They are able to explain it in their own words. They are able to do a past year paper by answering questions. They are also able to highlight, the similarities and the differences. So basically, you must be able to manipulate and change the information around. It's not about feeling. It's about structure. Right? It's about structure of information. Okay. When it comes to the levels, the different levels of learning. Okay. Now, generally, passive learners use what we call rote learning. Rote learning is parrot fashion. You memorize everything. All right. Active learners will create maps, mind maps. Right. They'll do some class examples. They'll actually think about, hey, when I learned this is what I did. It worked really well. We call this reflection, right? Reflective mastery. So they think about how they learn things, what worked, what didn't work, what should I do better next time. So there's a different way in which they learn, all right? And you'll find that when it comes to the different levels of learning, they look for strategies that lead to long-term retention. So when they learn, they know it's going to last me, a lifetime. I can continuously use these strategies and it'll always help me. Okay. Okay, we've covered a lot of that. Now, I want to digress a little bit and talk to you about the different stages of information. Like I said, when I deeply analyzed, I found there's 5 stages of learning. Number 1 is data. What is data? Data basically describes an object. It gives you a little bit of information about something, all right? If you put a whole lot of data together, it gives you the second level of learning, and that is information. Information comes from the word inform. It informs you on a certain topic, on a certain section, all right? Now notice schools dump a lot of information onto you. So when you take information and you have a goal for that topic, that subject, it now becomes what we call knowledge. You have a goal, right? Okay, I want to learn everything about mathematics, and that's the reason they'll tell you the mathematics teacher is the one with the most knowledge in mathematics. He's taken all that information in mathematics with the goal of becoming the teacher in mathematics. Now it's given him that knowledge. Now, notice, like I said, school and universities are playing in number 2 and number 3. You want to become an extraordinary learner that can really stand out, you need to be playing in level 4 and level 5. Level 4 is understanding. What is understanding? Understanding to me is experience. the more experience I have, the better I understand this knowledge, this information. So how do I get experience? Experience is practice. The more I practice, the more experience I have. The more examples I do, that's practice, right? The more I actually know this thing, I understand it. So you got to learn how to always move to understanding. You got to change knowledge and information. You got to convert it into understanding. When you've got understanding, it gives you the 5th level. You are now wise enough to now make decisions on how to use your experience of the knowledge that you have. You are able to give advice and change things around or put it in different places, in different scenarios. So always strive to play at the stage of number 4, understanding, and number 5, wisdom. Being able to make choices and decision of how to use the information, the knowledge that I have to benefit. Okay, so that's the 5 stages of learning. Now let's go to number 8 of active and passive learning. When it comes to active and passive learning, you've got to learn how to chunk information, right? So you'll find that passive learners have a habit of chunking down. What does chunking down mean? Chunking down means they want to learn all the little bits of information. If I give you an analogy of a tree, if I use a tree as an example, a passive learner wants to collect all the leaves, all the little bits of information. They want all the leaves. And that's why they feel like, oh my God, it's too much, TMI. You suffer with TMI, information overload, and you get overwhelmed. When you learn the art of chunking, boys and girls, you'll be able to reduce content by 80%. So what is chunking? Well, when you chunk down, it means you want all the little details. When you chunk up, it means you are grouping information into a group. Like, for example, if I told you on the road, there's cars, trucks, buses, and vans moving. What is one word to describe all of that? You'll probably tell me vehicles, or somebody else might tell me transportation, right? So that's chunking up. When you chunk up, you're reducing the content. If you want to know what's the little details, now you use the 6 W's to get the little details. So if I ask you, what vehicles? Where are they? When was this? It'll give you all the details. So learn to chunk everything into one words. We call that chunking up. So like if I were to ask you, if I were to tell you, on the tree, we've got turkeys, ducks, geese, and chickens. What's one word to describe all of that? Somebody might say animals. Somebody might say birds. Can you see? So learn to chunk information upwards. So you're grouping information up. And this will help you to reduce volume big time. It's actually easier to remember 3 chunks as opposed to remembering 60 different things. So you got to chunk that, you got to take the 60 things and break it down, group it into 3 parts. What are 3 things to describe it? And simple. To chunk anything is you ask yourself this simple question. What is one word to describe all of that? So chunking, when you're using the same analogy of a tree, it's not about going for the leaves first. It's about having structure. You got the trunk, main branches, those are like the headings, right? Or the units. And then smaller branches, the subheadings, you know, the 1.1s and the 1.1.1s and the 1.1.2, those subheadings, right? And last comes the leaves. Why? If you have only the leaves, one wind comes, like we had the heavy wind here in Durban, one big wind comes, all the leaves are gone, it's scattered all over, I forgot, and it's confusing. But when you structure the information, when you got structure by chunking it, suddenly you know, hey, section 1.2 is about DNA, RNA. Yeah, under that is this, this, and this. And then last you go for details. So you always go for structure first, and how we do that is by chunking information. It's called the 80-20 rule. We only need 20% of information to get us 80% of the marks that we want. So remember, 80% of the work. Now, most students go the other way around. They go and learn 80% of information, and it gives them only 20% of marks. Okay, so learn to chunk and group information. When it comes to assessments, passive learners will cram, leave everything for the last minute, and I'll study overnight, 4 or 5 hours, right? And they generally stress themselves out. 1 week after the test or exam is finished, they forgot everything. Yeah. So it's not very effective. It's the least effective way of learning. You need to become an active learner by doing what we call distributed practice. In fact, a study shows 3 learners, Leslie, Leanne, and Nora. 3 of them writing the exact same test on the same day. It was on a Tuesday. Nora decided on Monday night, I'll spend 4 hours and I'll have it all covered. Leanne, on the other hand, says, no, I'll start on Friday night. I'll do 1 hour Friday, 1 hour Saturday, 1 hour Sunday, and 1 hour on Monday. So she did 4 by 1 hour, the exact same amount of time that Nora put in. Leslie, the smartest one, said, no. I will start 1 week in advance and I'll only do 30 minutes every day. So she did 30 minutes every day, which actually equated to exactly the same time as Leslie as Leanne and Nora, 4 hours. It's just that she used what we call spaced repetition, distributed practice, little bit every day. That 30 minutes equated to same 4 hours, but Leslie produces 20% higher marks than Leanne and Nora. So what it tells us is, instead of doing everything all at once, we rather do a little bit every day. That's called spaced repetition. In fact, I also did a study at one of the schools called in Phoenix, where they called me in to help them turn around the metric maths marks. And one of the things I found was the issue was mass practice. They were doing all 20 examples in a double period. So making the same mistakes all at once. Then we split them in 2 groups. We said one group, you do all 20 in that double period. And the other group, we told them you only do 4 examples. Only 4. You do 4 today. And like that, every day you do 4 examples. At the end of 30 days, 1 month, that group that did 4 examples every day, their results shot up 86%. They were understanding information. That group that did all 20 at once, their remembrance after 30 days, the retention dropped right down to 32%. Okay, so you need to actually do a lot of distributed practice. So you do a little bit of revision, 2 to 3 minutes every single day. You don't need to do long periods of time. No. Okay. Now, testing how I know whether I know my work, right? You wanna be a positive, proactive learner who's active, as opposed to being a negative, passive learner who's generally very reactive, right? Reactive learners like to copy and use others' work. They will use class examples. And also, this is the big thing, right? A big thing about passive learners is, if they're doing a past year paper or they're doing a class example, textbook is open there, the memo with all the answers is there, So active learners will do, they'll test themselves as though they're actually writing a test. They'll create new kinds of questions about what they're learning. And they will do past year papers without the textbook, the classroom examples, and without the memos open. They'll do it as though they are actually writing a test or an exam. Now, this is absolutely crucial, right? Learn to make sure that you are an active learner by doing the test or the past year papers without looking at the memos, without looking at the class examples, without looking at the textbook. Okay, so what it means is they solve their problems on their own. That means creating high problem-solving thinking skills, very high thinking skills. Okay, in the classroom, it's similar to the focus and attention, right? But you get marks on contribution in classroom. Passive learners generally don't contribute. They are more interested in socializing, eating lunch in the corner. They basically they'll ask others, hey, well, what's I just said now? They're not really active in the classroom. Active learners will participate. They will ask smart questions. And as a smart learner, I would like every one of you in any class, whether it's now in school, whether it's in metric, whether you get to university, get in the habit of every single lecture, every single class, to always ask at least one smart question. One in class, and generally I always say ask 2 questions, one in class, right? And one personally to the lecturer or the teacher, all right? Also, an active learner will go home and they will expand on their knowledge, meaning they will go and probably look at a YouTube video of what the teacher or the books were teaching. maybe read up more on that section that they're learning about, right? Ask around about other people's experience on that, right? You'll find that this enhances. Like back in the day, guys, when I was in school, remember there was no technology. Whatever was taught to me in school, like let's just say, for example, we were learning about the human heart. I lived up the road, on the same road as where the library was. So I would go to the library and I would look at books having the same content as my textbooks, but from different authors. I would look at least 2 or 3. So it gave me 2 or 3 different other opinions, other views on what I was learning. So it expanded my knowledge of that information that's being taught in school, right, by the teacher. And I could also engage with the teacher and say, but according to another study, this is you're able to do that, right? So you want to learn to expand on your knowledge. Also, you make it a habit to preview and review classwork. You must get in the habit of previewing. Previewing is, it takes 30 seconds to just look at 2 to 3 pages of what the teacher is going to teach. What's the next session that's coming up? When you're in that class already, you've already previewed what the teacher is going to teach. It takes another 30 or 40 seconds to look at the few pages behind. What did I learn in the last session? What did we cover in the previous session, right? That's called previewing and reviewing. Very, very important. And also, guys, if you can, when you want to become, our objective is to make you leaders. So for you to become a leader, you cannot be using other people's work. Can't be relying on everybody else. You want to do your own work, do your own stuff, all right? So a leader is one who creates his own stuff. A follower is somebody who will copy others. Okay, the last one is homework and assignments, right? Now, if you work at your level now, grade 11 and 10, what happens is, if you work on, let's just say, a project as well, you can say homework, assignments, and projects, you'll find sometimes you have to work in a team, right? You'll find passive learners are people who will look to make the least amount of contribution. They don't want to get involved. They want no work, right? They have no plan. They will rely on the classmates that are good to actually do everything for them. They will leave everything, to others, leaving completely on everybody else in the team. Or if they're doing it on their own project, they leave things for last minute. They'll try and copy as much as they can, word for word. I've seen entire projects, entire assignments, which, and you ask them at university level, you ask them, guys, I've come across this research. You've copied this word for word. So, they copy, right? So an active learner, what does an active learner do differently from the passive learner when it comes to projects, assignments, and homework? They start early. What do they start with? A plan. Okay, it's going to take me 1 day to do this. I need to get this, the introduction. Then I need to do some research. I need to go to there. I need to do this. I need to buy that. I'm going to put it down. They plan. So you start early by planning. You know the famous saying, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So yes, you want to start early with a plan. Then you want to start connecting, looking for patterns, do some research, right? It means now you're getting a very, very active and involved in all the things that you're doing, all right? Become critical in your thinking. Become creative in your work as well. Make it really stand out. Yeah. Now I'm done. This is the last one. Sorry, guys, I just got the 15 minutes left. Right. Okay, guys. So from this entire session, I've just got a few things that I would like for you to go and engage in. Number one, I would like you to now look at the notes and become an active learner, right? Stop all the things that made you the passive learner and become an active learner, engage. Then I want you to maximize your learning styles and take your learnings to a higher level. Take it to understanding level 4, stage 4 and stage 5. And where you are now able to make decisions and choices of how you can utilize that information, that understanding and that knowledge, all right? Also, now that you are aware of personality types and language patterns, I'd like for you to become consciously aware of what type of personalities are around you, amongst your social friends, amongst your family, and things like that, so that you can become, better equipped to actually now, it's actually basically what I'm doing is making you experience it firsthand in real life. So you're able to better deal and communicate with others. All right. So that's it from me, guys. Yeah, we've got questions. We've got a session now for questions from you guys. Well, my question to you all is, what have you learned? But yeah, guys, this is a time for you to be able to ask questions, and you can give us feedback as well. You can type out your questions. Any questions? Whilst you're thinking about your questions and you're typing out the questions as well, I will ask you, has it been beneficial to you? I hope and make dua that inshallah that whatever I have taught you today has added massive value in your lives and will make a difference, will make a huge difference inshallah. Those students that have already applied these kind of learnings, we see it in their results. So yeah, guys, questions? Guys, I'm also in the group and we'll be adding everybody as soon as we compile that list. I just haven't got down to getting somebody to actually compile that list and put everybody onto the group, the WhatsApp group. I know there's very few of you there, but we'll get everybody on as soon as possible. If you have any questions, you're welcome to engage with me there as well. So how many of you are in grade 10? Just type in 10 in the chat box. Just type in 10 in the chat box. All grade 11s. Okay, Adnan, Shaz, Alia, grade 10s. And grade 11s? You type in 11. Okay, Zakira, Zaleha. Okay, Dr. Okay, there's more grade 11s here. So, guys, Dr. Yusuf, the initial speaker and the sponsor of the program, he's actually asked me, you see, I have video tuitions of all your subjects. So, it's only for this group, right? That he's going to sponsor. We're going to sponsor this. You're going to get your maths and science because that's the focus, just maths and science, but it's on an online portal. So what we need is your email address. I will need your email. I'll engage with you guys in the group about that. But any questions from you guys? Has it been beneficial to you? I'm pretty sure all of you are on IG, Instagram, right? Do follow me. I follow back. Any questions, any comments? The next session we planning, as you're thinking of a question, right? The next session we planning is on exam prep, exam questions, like how to create a revision plan, how to write essays and letters and a whole lot of that. So would that be appropriate for you? Just type in the chat box to let me know. Adnan says yes. Very good. Leia, excellent, excellent. So I'll show you a framework of how to write an essay in any subject, in any language, and then you can just apply it in any subject when you. Amara says, I have learned I am a passive learner and I do intend to work on it. Excellent, Amara. So you've learned that a lot of things that you've been doing is making you work hard, but not giving you the kind of results. That's what happens with passive learners. They don't know it, right? But subconsciously, they've been working very hard, but it's actually made them passive learners and they don't kind of produce the kind of results that they really want. Very good, Amara. Excellent. Anybody else? Any other contributions? Any comments, questions? I really hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did. I'm very passionate about this and teaching people, all these smarter ways. So yes, if you have a question and you don't want to ask it in the group, by all means, you're most welcome to, you can email me. I'm also in the group. You can private message me. As you can see, if you've got my details here, you can keep in touch and ask me questions there. Even if you are having emotional challenges where your emotions are coming in the way of your learning, do contact me and we will help you with this. It's part of this project. Like I told you, it's not a once-off or just this year. We're looking at a long term to take you guys over the next 3 years to make you guys leaders. All right. So if you have any challenges, issues, that's really hindering your studies, your academics, let me know and we'll help you with that.
Jazakallah to all the students and to all the lecturers on behalf of the Islamic Propagation Center International.
Jazakallah.
Definitely a very informative program, and I hope all the students have enjoyed it.
Okay, Jazakallah everybody, shukran. Allah bless you all. Until next time, be safe, keep safe, and yeah, all the best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الحميد المجيد الرشيد الشهيد اللطيف الخبير